Every week, we're blessed to have a guest presenter who shares with us their insights on a particular topic. This week, we're honored to have with us Mr. Ark Ting. Mr. Ting is a senior at Walton High School, has taught Baha'i Sunday school and junior youth class for more than 3 years, is an initiator and co-founder of Camp Brilliant Star, which serves junior youth and children in under-resourced neighborhoods, and is a founder and coordinator of Education for All, with a team of high schoolers mentoring middle schoolers in low-income areas. He is in his second term as president of the Latin Club at Walton High School, is a key member of the Science Bowl, a champion in the Cobb County Math Competition of 2019, received second place in Roman history in the National Latin Convention, and also creates 3D animations of origami on YouTube. Friends, please welcome Mr. Ark Ting.
Thank you, Mr. Boyanton. Is that how I say it?
Mm-hmm.
Hello, everybody. My name is, as you already know, my name is Ark Ting, and I want today to talk about how to start Baha'i core activities at a neighborhood. And I've been doing this for about 2 years, and I wanted to share my insight and advice to starting things from a more organizational and practical perspective for your future core activities endeavors. As you know, the core activities are a current initiative by the Universal House of Justice, the main governing Baha'i body of the world, for Baha'is all around the world to begin grassroots community building efforts on the path to world unity and world peace. And I wanted to share a little bit of my insight into that process. And so let's say you're thinking about, I want to do this, but how do I start? And so I would say step one is find a partner. All of these things really start with one person. These only need to start with one person, which is you. If you want to do this, you can begin. However, it's extremely difficult for just you. So I would recommend that you find a partner. This can be anyone in your life, anyone that you know really well. It could be your friend, your best friend, a member of your family. For me, I had my mom, and we've been doing this together from the beginning. And it's been our connection that's been driving. It's been our love together that's been driving the love that we give to everyone else. It's a lot easier when you have a team. If you can find more people than just two, that's great. But it really starts between the connection between two people. So after you find a partner, write down your blueprints. Now, if you want to do this, get out a piece of paper or something to write with. Maybe it's your phone or a computer, something you can put text on. I'm serious. You write down a day, the day that you want to start doing this. Maybe it's the day that you want to reach out to that friend of yours, the day you want to start meeting and planning, or maybe the day you want to go out and actually do it. I'll give you a few minutes. And once you write down a day that you planned, which I saw some of you do, hopefully, and I'm very proud. Once you start on that day that you planned, you should say a prayer afterwards, because you need God and all of his divine help and miracles. We did that a lot. So once you have your plans and you have a day that you want to start, find a place to do this. Now, ideally, it's your own neighborhood. It's where you live. Because if you start these activities where you live, then it's going to be a lot easier. People will not question why you're there because it's your own community. And if you need indoor space, well, you have your own home. It makes things a lot easier. However, when I wanted to do this, I decided that I did not want to do it in my neighborhood because, frankly, I thought that there was more to be done, especially in a country like the United States. And so I chose a neighborhood outside of my own. So let's say you decide that you don't want to do it in your own neighborhood and you want to do something outside. So how do you find one? Well, you just open up Google Maps and you start looking around. Look around where you live and pick a place. Doesn't have to be the one you actually do it. You find some neighborhood and you get in your car and you go there. Maybe talk to your partner about it, see how they feel about it. Go with your partner, you go there and you feel it out. And if it feels right, try to imagine starting the core activities there. Gathering people, where you're gonna do it. Once you found a place you think is good, that means you're ready. And just make sure it's still the early stage, so follow your heart. And don't expect to find the perfect place. Going off experience, I would recommend that you should find a place that's within 20 minutes out from each of your potential teammates, because who knows, you might be growing your team. However, once you find the place that you want to do it, you're ready. So step 4, prepare. Obviously, before you go out, you need to do some preparations. As they say, if you don't prepare, you're preparing to fail. So think about what you need. You need flyers to give people. Think about where you're going to do it, when you're going to hold activities. Prepare materials, water, snacks, pens, papers, anything that you might need. And lastly, you need to prepare your pitch. Obviously, you're going to be talking to lots and lots of people. Most of them will be strangers. You need to prepare your elevator pitch. When people ask you, what are you doing here? You need to tell people very quickly and very concisely what you're doing, why you're doing it, and all the information they need. And maybe give them a flyer. So you need to practice. I recommend that you write down what you want to say and then practice it. Maybe you can practice it to your house, to your stuffed animal, to your dog, or to yourself, or your mirror, whatever. However you practice your public speaking. And try to think about what kind of questions people are going to ask you about this program. Think about these people, some people you talk to who have never heard the Baha'i faith before. They've never heard the Junior Youth Empowerment, Spiritual Empowerment Program, or children's classes, or any of this. So you'll have to explain to it very quickly. And you want to think about what kind of questions people will ask you. Or better yet, you can just try out your elevator pitch, and when people ask you questions, you figure out what kind of things people ask you. And you might be surprised. When I went out to Sedgefield Apartments and I practiced my sort of pitch a lot, and I was talking to people and knocking on doors, one time I came across this family and I told them the whole spiel. Like, this is we're Baha'is, so we want to do this. This is the empowerment program, and this is how it goes. One of the questions they asked me was, how much does it cost? I was like, what? I never considered that someone would actually consider it before, but thinking about it, why wouldn't they think that? And so in my future, when I talk to people in the future, I made sure to say, this is free. And so you'll be surprised. You can't think of every question that people ask you. And so in a sense, your elevator pitch will never really be ready. So you only need to be ready enough, and just go out and then test it. And then you'll gain more experience. You'll be nervous. I was really nervous. Don't be nervous of getting rejected. Because if you think about it, once you've taken enough rejections, what kind of difference is another one going to make? 100, 101, whatever. Another form of preparation you need to do is talk to the management office, whether it's your neighborhood or whether it's another neighborhood. Tell them what you're doing and why you're doing it, and ask them, hey, can we do this? They can't really stop you anyways. But make sure you tell them, hey, we're doing this. Maybe you want to support us a little. If they respond, that's great. Just keep talking to them. But most likely, they will not respond to you. But that's all right. It means when you talk to them in person later, you can tell them, hey, I sent you an email about it, and then they'll feel bad. This stage of preparing can take either a short time or a long time. But keep in mind that you'll never feel fully prepared. So just prepare until you're ready enough. As I said before, it's better to start not fully prepared than to just keep on preparing forever. You can't see how deep the water is before you dive in. So once you've gathered materials, you've made a flyer. Let's see. Here's the first flyers I made. On the left, this is the first one I ever made. As you can see, it's very bad. Doesn't really talk about what this is. I wanted to start off with a junior youth program, but I would recommend that you start off with children's classes because children, it's easier, the material is easier. It's easier to explain to people because it's a class. People have this idea that it makes classes make sense to them. Very recently, when we made Camp Brilliant Star, these are the later flyers that I made, and I want to make sure that they're visually appealing, they give the right information, and the way to contact is easy. As you can see, there's these nice pictures. Unlike this one, there's no picture. Also, lastly, when you're preparing, you want to think about what the program is. When you design an activity, when you're ready to start, you want to think about what the activity actually is. And so it depends on whatever the complications of the neighborhood you're doing it at. And I know if you read the books on the Ruhi Institute has made about these things, you'll find lots of information about what the program should be. But I would say that there are three main stages of designing a program. There's the introductory activity, the central activity, and the concluding activity. The introductory activity is where everybody kind of gets settled into the atmosphere of your group. So what we did was that we played music and we said some prayers. Sometimes it was the same thing because we were singing Blessed is the Spot. Then you'll have the essential activity, which is the main activity of your group for that day. So if it's a children's class, maybe you want to be teaching some virtue that day. Or if it's a junior youth group, you want to be discussing a certain topic that day. So that's the main bulk of your activity. And then it's the concluding activity where you do something to end everything on a good note. So what we did is sometimes we'd play soccer on the field, or we'd have snacks and everybody would hang out. Or one time we brought in a kit of jumbo bubbles that everyone had a blast with. So think about the kind of stages. These are the main parts of your program. You can design your program from there. Honestly, this could be its whole entire other presentation, but I'll leave it at that. So once you feel prepared enough, step 5, go. And by that I mean actually go. Get in your car, talk to your partner, get in your car, put all your supplies in there, all your preparations, and go there. And walk around the place, get a feel for it, see what kind of things go around. Or first time, you might want to talk to the management office. Now, if you remember, you sent them an email before. And if they didn't respond, you can tell them, hey, I sent you an email about this before, but you didn't respond to it. And since they're right in front of your face, they can't really ignore you anymore. So they'll feel a little bad about it. Tell them again what you're doing and ask them if they'll let you put a flyer in their office. They'll probably say no, but it's worth a shot anyways, right? If they say no, they'll probably tell you that you can put it near the mailboxes or by the front doors, because again, they don't want to feel too bad about it, so they'll try to help you as some way they can, without putting in too much effort themselves. By the way, if you're passing out flyers, just a side note, passing out flyers, it's illegal to tape or nail things to people's doors, so just find some way to leave it, or you can leave it under the rug sometimes. When you're done talking to the management office, walk around, talk to people outside. It's very rare that there's going to be nobody walking outside. Go talk to people outside, be very friendly, say hi, how are you doing? And then give your elevator pitch, or you can, sometimes the situation presents itself and you can just roll with it there. If there's nobody else outside, which is very unlikely, your last resort is to knock on doors, go door to door. So once you do all that, just talk to as many people as you can. Our first day, I think we talked to around 10 people. And from my experience, every 10 people you talk to, a max of around one person will be interested, or maybe zero. If it's zero, go talk to some more people. Again, when you have so many rejections, what kind of difference is one more going to make? So don't be afraid. When you go, make sure you go on at least a weekly basis. When we were starting out, we went 2 days a week. It was Monday and Thursday because it was summer and I didn't have homework. But if it's not your own neighborhood, you need to go consistently to build trust. If you're not there like half the time when you say you are, then why would they trust you? They need to build the expectation that you'll be there at the same time every week or so. When school started and I couldn't do Mondays and Thursdays anymore, we switched to doing Saturdays at 2 p.m. every single week. And that's also helped when we told people, hey, we're going to be here Saturday at 2 p.m. every single week. And that's the expectation they got. And keep going, talk to people until you find people who are interested. Remember, it only takes one. It only took you, one person, to start this. And it only takes one of them to start this. At least one person. But until then, set goals for each day. So maybe one day you want to talk to 10 people. Maybe one day you want to talk to 15 people. Regardless of the result, you took enough effort to talk to those people anyways. So I think God is pleased. Once you find at least one person who's interested, it only takes one, you're ready to begin the activities. And once you have those activities, you can find the next step, which is to grow. You need to grow everything pretty much. Grow your group, grow your team, grow your activities. And this process, that's how the community building process works. They talk about the nucleus and how it expands. The nucleus started with you and your partner, and that one person that you managed to make that connection with, and it grows from there. So first I'm going to talk about growing your group. First, so this was me starting out. It was just me and these two little kids. And eventually, after about a year, we eventually grew to this size. And also the management office let us inside. Even if you have a group growing, you need to think about how can you add more people. Yes, maybe you have 5 people and they're great, but how can you add more people? Unless there's 5 people in your neighborhood, which is very unlikely, there's always more people out there. Or not only do you need to add more people, you need to strengthen the connections of your group. Try new activities, new service projects, find more ways for them to strengthen the connections between each other and the way they'll help out each other. Secondly, you want to grow your team as well. Starting out, it was just me and my mom, but soon as we started growing, it was starting to become, as we got more and more people, it was starting to become harder and harder to handle everybody. And so as you grow your group, you need to grow your team to handle it. And so what I did was that I went out to Baha'i events, I went to the Unity Church and talked to people about what I did and garnered interest. And about a year later, we started getting more support, which is on the right here. Here's all of us hanging out at Dunkin' Donuts. So if you want to grow your group, you need to grow your team. Not only do you need to grow your team, you also need to strengthen the connections with your team as well. Remember, it's the connections and the love in your team or between you and your partner that is the core that resonates with everything else. And you need that, otherwise the whole thing falls apart. And so don't be afraid to hang out with your team once in a while. And to have fun while you're doing it. After every Saturday afternoon, me and my mom were usually so tired that we just go out for bubble tea after we were done every week. And I think that made it worth it. So don't have some fun while you're at it and make sure that you strengthen the bonds between your team. So you can go hang out at some point, and it helps a lot because you need to make sure that your team and everybody understands each other and everybody can work together so that you can work with all the people outside. So actually, before I end off the step of growing, this step takes a very long time. Some groups take about years, like 10 years to get where they are now, where you see the picture with all of these kids. It took them about 10 years. So don't worry too much if you're going very slowly. As long as you're making progress, you're not procrastinating, and you're making steps a little bit at a time, you're fine. You just keep going. But you need to be continually making progress. There'll be many setbacks to your growth, but as long as you make more steps forward than backward, you're on the right track. Lastly, I want to close off with just some tips that I didn't really know how to order. I didn't really know how to order into steps. So first of all, I want to bring up the idea, stop waiting for perfect conditions. Back when I was in middle school, I really liked this girl because I was young and she was pretty, but I kept waiting for the perfect conditions to tell her that I liked her. They never came, so eventually I just gave up and found the place as good as any. Same thing here. You don't want to wait for perfect conditions because they'll never come. Oh, I'm like doing this in the middle, or I'm kind of busy right now, or this other person can't do it, or it's raining right now. You'll never have like the perfect conditions. So stop waiting for them and just start. You've already written down a day to start, and you'll start on that day no matter what. Next up, I would say, don't make excuses for yourself. I remember reading this story about this other group trying to start core activities, and on their first day that they were going to go out, they wished that it rained so that they'd have an excuse not to go. And when I was starting out, some people asked me, hey, what would you do if it rained? We're doing this outside. The management office didn't let us use the space in the middle, so I was like, whatever, we'll just do it outside. Truth is, it just didn't rain. So don't make up obstacles for yourself. It didn't rain, so we weren't going to worry about it until it did. It did eventually, but that's beside the point. So don't make up excuses for yourself. I understand that this is very tiring and it's very exhausting work, but you can't let these things stop you. Something I always thought to myself was, if there's something that came up like, it's really hot today, are you really going to let that stop you? Think about what God's looking at above. He's like, this man stopped my divine plans because it was too hot outside. No, you just keep going. Next up, I would say that the connections at the beginning come before the spiritual education. Some people want to start out with the books, the Ruby Institute books like Glimmerings of Hope and Breezes of Confirmation. But I would say that when you're starting out, it's very important to establish the connections of your group first. And it's more important that they have this group that supports each other than it is for them to learn things. However, I'm not saying that spiritual education can be eschewed for the connections, because there needs to be a balance between having those connections and for them to be productive. Remember, we're doing service here, and so there's no point if they don't actually learn anything. So at some point, they need to be productive, but they also need to be having fun at the same time. So that's part of designing activities. Next up, I would say, don't give up. Once you start, it's really hard to stop. If you've already made these connections with these people in these groups, and you come across some setback, if you back out now, what's going to happen to them? So you can't give up. So that about ends it. I just want to leave everyone off with this quote from Shoghi Effendi in The Advent of Divine Justice, our guardian of the faith. He says, there is a long and thorny road beset with pitfalls that still remains untraveled. And so I just want everyone to remember that this is, as he said, a very long and thorny road. It's not very well paved, and you can't really see where it goes, but you have to believe that the road is going in the right direction. no matter how bad it gets. And that's what you need to keep yourself going. So what's important is that you know that the road is going in the right direction no matter how bad it gets.